Well, a very good day to you. Welcome to today's episode of The Big Question. I'm your host, Simon Irungu, always joined in by the number one political commentator in Kenya. Are you number one political commentator in Kenya, Prof?
Number one is an understatement.
Where do you rate yourself?
It's superordinate.
Is it just Kenya or is it international?
Anyway, I'm just one of them.
Okay. Now, Prof, let's go to today's question, Prof. The question for today is on truth and lies. These politicians making promises, making manifestos just a few days to the election, Prof. Now, how does the common mwananchi differentiate from a truth and a lie come this August 9th general election? Let's look at someone like Professor Wajakoya. Some of the things that he's promising, are they practical? Talking about legalizing bang, exporting snakes, now exporting dogs, Prof. Is it just for numbers or just
no, those
for
ideas. Wajakoya has ideas.
How practical are these? Like, let's say, exporting dogs.
But is it not a viable venture? If we can have them and people want to buy them, so we can give them. What's wrong with that? If you can plant marijuana for medical purposes and make billions, what's wrong with that? Other countries are doing it. Even America is doing it. Some states in America are doing it. Right now, I think there are about 40 countries or thereabouts, engaged in commercial marijuana. So I have listened to Wajakoya's, there is something going down, 14 point. I don't know whether it is from him. I've tried to get him, he can't pick my phone because he's about to become president. I can't blame him. That's a person who gets near where I think. There are some of those radical proposals which I would do myself if I was to become president.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Prof, let's look at the two main horses. I don't know if Wajakoya is emerging as the third horse, Prof. But now let's focus on Raila and let's focus on William Ruto, Prof. One of the main agenda that they are trying to major on is to lower the standards of living in this country, Prof. But they have been in government at some point and they saw the standards of living going high, Prof. Are they speaking the truth when they say that they are going to bring the standards of living?
They want votes. And if you want votes, you talk about standards of living, you talk about cost of living, and you say you bring down the cost of living, raise standards of living. That's what everybody will do that. But as to whether it carries any weight or truth, that's another story.
But is it something practical? Are we able to see Kenyan standard of living coming down?
It's possible. What's the problem? It's not. You see, the high cost of living is occasioned by what you can broadly classify as two factors. One are domestic factors. And the other one is a bunch of global factors beyond sometimes our control, like price of crude oil, Ukrainian war that is affecting grain, the world shipping giants and transporters. Those are things, the dollar, the effect on other currencies. Those are things you may have very little you can do about, especially as a third world country. But there are also other bundle of things that are domestic, including taxation and many other measures you could take to bring down the cost of living. So it is possible, yes.
Okay, now the other day Raila was on record saying that he was not part of the government after the handshake. Was he part of government, Prof?
How? Our constitution is very clear. The government of Kenya, at least the executive, is made of the president, deputy president, and his cabinet. Raila doesn't fall anywhere near there. So how is he part of government? Now
that's where I'm getting to. What he said was that he was only giving advice to the government.
Just as many other people would give. You know how many people advise Uhuru? There are many.
But he was the opposition. Now, after the handshake, he was no longer the opposition. Did he fail Kenya?
There are dynamics that pushed him in a position from where he could advise Uhuru. The political dynamics in the country.
Okay.
Beginning with the handshake and so on and so forth. That meant he was no longer the Raila in the other position. He was Raila who this time could pick a phone and talk to the president.
Okay.
And in the process advise him. But like Raila says, and which is true, a piece of advice can either be taken or ignored or amended.
But we've known him for pinpointing mistakes from the government, Prof. Just pinpointing a mistake from the government, is it something wrong? Is it something that he should have been doing?
But I'm saying he can now do it differently. He can talk to Uhuru. They can have a cup of tea together and discuss. And tell Uhuru, hii hapa ni mbaya. Without making it public. Now, Uhuru may choose to ignore him. Or may choose to implement. That's in the nature of advice. It's either taken or or ignored or implemented halfway or amended. You know, that is advice. But the position from which Raila operates, it was no longer tenable for him to point at certain things the way he used to.
Okay.
And who said it must be Raila to do it? Why can't other Kenyans do it? Those who are blaming Raila, why can't they do it? Now they seem to be realizing Raila was a giant of Kenyan politics. The moment they stopped criticizing government, then there was nobody to do it. It's an admission from those people that Raila was a forceful and is a forceful politician.
Okay.
Because why has somebody else come up to criticize government? I've seen him today reading a statement somewhere about auctioning of our ports. I wish they have the facts. I hope they have the facts right. Was it not today, the other day?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, latest commentary from Raila, he said that he is a sportsman and he's willing to accept defeat once he is beaten in the August 9th general election, Prof. First of all, what's your reaction from this statement from Raila?
As it should be. He says he's a sportsman and he knows in sports there will always be a winner and a loser. And the winner must accept. The loser must accept if it was 100 meters. Or Manyala or whatever it's called has it. Or Usain Bolt, not you. You utosheke na bronze. I'm a silver. That's what Raila is saying. Gor Mahia has been beaten by FC in the Mashemegi Derby. Gor Mahia has to accept. And Raila is a fan of Gor Mahia, is in the stadium. He has to go home accepting that Gor Mahia has lost. So you can extend that metaphor to politics. And he's saying, if I lose, why not? I know people lose elections. I'll go home.
Now the question coming from the people is that they are referring to 2013, 2017. Raila did not accept defeat, Prof. This time around, what's going to be different?
I was engaging, I think, Cholet on that question sometimes back on Citizen TV. And you see, that is an issue brought by many people who want to talk ill of Raila. It begins in 2007, when everybody agrees he did not lose the election, he won the election. So the question is, how could he have accepted defeat in an election he won? In 2017, the election was nullified by the Supreme Court. How was he then going to say, enyewe nimepoteza hii election, Uhuru, congratulations? And the Supreme Court has said this was a farce. In 2013, he lost an election, he contested. And as per the dictates of the Constitution, he moved to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court didn't give him victory there. And he agreed with the Supreme Court. So what are these stories people are talking about? I want to look for somebody to explain to me, because I haven't understood. It begins in 2007. He won the election. How then was he going to say, Kibaki umenishinda na yeye ameshinda Kibaki na kila mtu anajua? In 2017, same. 2013, so whatever. Hii kukataa anasema Raila anakataa ni gani?
Okay, now the question on whether he's going to accept or deny the results,
yes.
all depends on how IEBC is going to conduct the elections.
Yes.
Are you confident with the IEBC this year?
You know, I really have no choice in the matter. I have to accept that IEBC is going to run this election. They have run several elections in this country. I mean, from their predecessors and so on and so forth. From the time we moved the supervision of elections from the office of the president to an independent body, ECK, and so all the way to whatever. So I have no option. This is what we have. We'll have to work with it. I have been on record trying to raise issues as to whether we were prepared for this election. I was vilified. But now, the people who are vilifying me are now pointing at the same things I was pointing at 2 years ago. But now that we have only a couple of days, 40 or so, to an election, we have to have confidence in IBC and make the best out of it. Okay.
Now, Prof, today's conversation, or rather today's question, is on whether the statements, the promises, the manifestos that these presidential candidates are making, whether they are true or some of them are just false, maybe something to gain popularity with. So William Ruto, the deputy, today has promised Kiambu small and medium-sized enterprises 2.5 billion during the launch of Moses Kuria Hustler Funds, Prof, on top of the billions that he's promising to put down here, Prof. How practical is this promise?
It's a good idea to promise, but two things come to mind. One, you keep promising the billions. First of all, where are these billions going to come from in an economy like this? You haven't shown me how you'll make the economy produce those billions. Worse still, you haven't shown me how the economy could produce. You haven't told me how you'll take care of the theft, the hemorrhage, the money that is lost to corruption.
Maybe that's where the money is going.
Why hasn't he told us how, or even an attempt that I'll stop corruption? He hasn't even mentioned it. So, how will you create the money to give the billions you are promising everybody? And even if the money was created by the economy, you haven't assured us that the money will not be stolen. And the second thing is, these billions, even if you had them and threw them down, I've been raising this issue for a long time. What difference will they bring? What difference will 2.5 billion make in Gatundu? Gatundu has received billions of shillings in devolved funds over time. Billions, not 2.5 billions. The youth in that constituency have access to various funds. The government has put billions of shillings in funds, as I speak to you, being dispersed every day. The question you must ask, and which I've asked repeatedly, is how come all this money that the government has been pumping down has never brought any change? That is the conversation we need to be having. But promising billions down there, it will not make a difference. It is cheap. Because money has been going down, we have not seen any difference. So what are you bringing on the table that will make a difference? That should be the conversation. And that's not the conversation.
Okay. And how is Raila doing it different then from William Ruto? He's promising to give 6,000 to families.
What Raila is talking about are social interventions, social safety nets that work in many countries in the world, where you say, okay, given the state of the economy today, there will be people in this country who cannot afford the most basic needs, like just food. Or if you are in Europe or America, even to heat their homes during winter, they cannot afford. So government then must move in with some form of stipend or support system, so they support. So this is a global thing. In this country, we have been having an experiment, programs actually, for the vulnerable, for orphaned children, especially AIDS orphans. They get foster homes, and the government disperses funds to those homes. It is already an ongoing project. Government has been paying the elderly. It has been expanding the number. It began with a small number. The number has been growing with the intention of finally covering everybody who is beyond 70 years. They have been getting some little money. So this is something on which Raila is building, is a practice world over, that governments will have programs to take care of the vulnerable. It's a different thing from saying, I'll throw 200 billion, I'll throw 50 billion, and it is even laughable that somebody can think by putting 50 billion down, you can end unemployment. If it was that simple, no country will have unemployment. Everybody will be employed. If all it will take in this country is 150 billion, 50 billion there, 100 billion there, that Ruto is saying, if that's all it will take to create jobs for all the young men and women in this country, everybody will be just sleeping in State House and laughing. It will be a very simple thing. Kutoa 2 bilioni 100 ama 200 na hakuna unemployment, kila kijana ako na kazi, ai bwana, inaweza kuwa rahisi sana.
Now, Prof, on behalf of the young people who don't know the history of Kenya, people who are maybe participating in their first election, now how do they know? How do they differentiate a truth from a lie?
They have the benefit of education more than even those of us who are old. If their mothers and grandmothers in the village are able to make sense of the political situation in the country, why wouldn't they try and make it? This is their country. If they want the country to go dogs, that's the problem. They have to make an effort. If you are a young man, you must make an effort. Because this is your country. Do you think this country belongs to me or to you? Me, I'm on the door, I'm exiting. This is your country. You are here another 50 years.
But you know how the politicians sugarcoat the lies.
That is your work, and you have the benefit of education, which your grandmothers in the village didn't have. You have the benefit of education. You should find out, why are you where we are? You should listen to this politician. If somebody's lying, you should be able to know this is a lie. It should be you to go to the village and tell the villager, look, nasikia mtu anakujanga hapa anawaambia, if this guy is lying to you, this is not possible. But the honors and the responsibility is on the young people of this country. They should not run away from politics. And I get very amused, almost annoyed, when they say, hatutaki kusikia historia. If you don't know how you got here, how will you sort out the problem of this country? You must know how we got here. You must know that we got it wrong at independence. Various attempts to correct that wrong have failed, and there have been reasons. We have had successes, including the introduction of multipartyism, so that in this country now, you have some space to speak. And through speaking and public conversations, a lot of things have been achieved. We have achieved a constitution that is modern, as people say, one of the most progressive constitutions. I don't quite agree, but it is there. There is need to make another major break with the past. And that young man you are talking about must play their role in ushering in the third revolution, the third major change in this country, because we have achieved quite a lot. What remains now is to ensure our politics is right. We don't give room to demagogues. And then to ensure that we revolutionize our economy so that we don't live like people who are in the 17th century. We enjoy high forms of standards, high standards of living as Kenyans. Children get good schools. We get health, care that is modern, first class. That young man you are talking about has that responsibility.
Okay, now, Prof, looking at Kenya Kwanza, looking at Azimio la Umoja promises, the agendas that they are making, Prof, which one are you relating with better?
It's not a very simple question. Because you see me, my bar is too high. My bar is way too high. But on the balance of things, I would relate more with Azimio than with Raila than with Ruto. Okay. Maybe I'm a victim of history. Maybe it's my age. I have seen it all. I've seen the journey we've traveled. I've seen the role Raila has played. And I try to bang my head to see how I could compare Ruto to Raila. I have a problem seeing it. And I'm sure I'm not alone. However, the people to vote in Ruto, Raila are Kenyans. It's not Manyora. Yeah. But to answer your question, if I was to go by what you're asking, I think there are people like me who may resonate better with Raila than with Ruto.
Well, I guess that's where we wrap up the conversation. Well, thank you so much for tuning in here at Professor Herman Manyora. Keep the word going, share, comment, share with us. The comment section is always open for you.
And please subscribe. We are marching towards 100,000. Raila anapenda kuita lucky moja. We want to have the joy of celebrating and dancing with you and say thank you very much. You made it possible. Please do subscribe if you have not subscribed.
Well, till you have the next big question, enjoy the rest of your day.